Picture a group of 8 people standing around a dead elephant in what is now Ethiopia. 400,000 years ago. No words, no language, no way to say anything remotely close to. Split into 2 groups, half carry the meat, half watch the perimeter. We have maybe 2 hours before the hyenas smell this. And yet, that is exactly what happens. Within minutes, the group divides. Some move meat, others spread outward and position themselves facing away from the carcass, watching the tree line. The operation is coordinated, efficient. Nobody pushed anyone. Nobody pointed at a diagram. Nobody spoke a single word. So how did 8 individuals with no language coordinate a complex multi-step operation with a time limit and a threat they couldn't yet see? That question has a real answer. And it's not what most people expect. The first thing to understand is that language and communication are not the same thing. Language is one tool for transmitting information. Communication is the act itself. And it doesn't require language any more than seeing requires glasses. Ancient humans had access to a rich set of communication channels that most people drastically underestimate. Not because researchers haven't studied them, because we've spent so long assuming that without words, there couldn't have been much to say. That assumption is wrong. Start with gesture, because this was almost certainly the primary channel, and its sophistication goes much deeper than pointing at things. Wild chimpanzees use dozens of distinct, intentional gestures to communicate specific requests and social signals. The arm raise means play. The beckoning motion means come here. A directed touch to a specific body part means groom me here, not there. These are not reflexes. Chimpanzees check whether the other individual is watching before gesturing. They repeat or modify the gesture when it fails to work. They gesture at distance, toward individuals who can't see them through other means. That's not instinct. That's intentional communication directed at a specific individual for a specific purpose. Now consider that ancient hominins had hands capable of producing sophisticated stone tools, controlled, planned sequences of precise movements. Hands with that level of motor control don't just make better tools. They produce richer, more precise gesture. Direction, distance, sequence, role. All of this is expressible through gesture without a single spoken syllable. The 8 individuals around that carcass weren't operating beyond what a sophisticated gestural system could carry. The spatial arrangement of the group, the directional sweep of an arm, the mimed sequence of what each subgroup should do, that information was already there. But gesture wasn't working alone. Facial expression was running in parallel, and it had a property that no deliberately produced signal can match. It's involuntary. The 6 basic human facial expressions, fear, anger, disgust, happiness, sadness, surprise, appear in every human culture on Earth and have direct analogs in chimpanzee facial expression produced by the same muscle systems in response to the same emotional states. The human face has more muscles than any other primate face. That's not an accident. That's millions of years of biological investment in the infrastructure of facial communication. And because facial expression is hard to suppress and hard to fake convincingly, it carries information that other individuals trust. When an ancient human scanned the faces of their group and saw genuine alarm, they weren't reading a signal. They were reading the truth of someone's internal state. That's a high-value channel. Then there's gaze. Humans have the most visible eye whites of any primate. This is almost certainly an adaptation for cooperative communication, making it effortless for others to see exactly where you're looking. Why does that matter? Because before you can communicate about something, everyone needs to be looking at the same thing. Joint attention, shared focus on the same object or event, is the foundation of almost all intentional communication. Point at the tree line, hold the gaze, and every individual in the group now has shared reference to what comes next. No word required. Vocalization was present too, but different from modern speech. Think of vervet monkeys. They produce distinct alarm calls for different predator types: aerial threats, ground threats, snake threats. And other group members respond with the correct specific evasive behavior for each one. These aren't words, but they carry precise referential information that changes behavior in adaptive ways. Ancient hominin call systems were almost certainly more elaborate than this. Larger brains, greater social complexity, more ecological challenges to navigate. And beyond the calls themselves, modulation mattered. Variations in pitch, timing, urgency, intensity. A call that means predator communicates something different at a low, steady tone than at a rising, panicked one. The information content of the vocal channel was being layered, categorical signal on top, emotional and urgency data underneath. And beneath all of it, operating constantly without anyone producing a single deliberate signal, spatial behavior. Who stands where, who faces whom, who moves closer, and who steps back. The spatial arrangement of individuals in a group carries continuous real-time information about relationships, intentions, and current group dynamics. Every member of the group was reading it, all the time. No signal needed. The information was already there in the arrangement itself. So here's what ancient human communication actually looked like. Not grunting, not pointing randomly, not helpless without words. A layered multi-channel system where gesture carried the richest propositional content. Facial expression provided real-time emotional truth. Gaze established shared reference. Vocalization added categorical signals and urgency. And spatial behavior provided constant relational context. All running simultaneously, each channel filling in what the others couldn't carry alone. The total information available from that integrated signal was substantially richer than any single channel could produce. The 8 individuals around the elephant carcass weren't improvising with a broken system. They were operating a sophisticated communication infrastructure refined across millions of years of social primate evolution, one that had been adequate to the demands of every generation before them. The hyenas arrived after the group had gone. The plan worked. Not a word was spoken. Not a word was needed.